Today, I want to talk to you guys about how to produce a video, and the essentials that you'll need for this is basically a camera and a computer or a phone. How many of you guys have a phone? Yeah, everybody, almost everybody. But really, that's all you need. I mean, really, you can edit right on a phone and everything, and I'll be talking about that. So this presentation, I'm going to be covering both sides of it, like how to produce a video professionally and how to produce a video just if you want to goof off and use your cell phone and make a cool little video to upload to YouTube and show somebody, So there's really so much that you can do with video, and really there's some steps that you can take to really get good quality video, even from a cell phone. Now the difference between a cell phone and like a professional production camera would obviously be like the image quality, which cell phones nowadays have great image quality, but really what makes a professional camera really shine with image quality is the sensor size. So in a cell phone, you just have a little tiny sensor, where in a bigger camera, you have a large sensor, and that sensor can capture a lot more light. And all cameras operate through capturing light. So lighting is super important for any camera, whether you're using a cell phone or a production camera. And then also with the production cameras, you have custom settings, so you can really dial it in depending on whatever situation that you're in. You may notice sometimes if you're filming with your cell phone, you go over to an area where you hit a window and all you can see is just the window, and it completely blacks out anything that's in front of it. If somebody's standing in front of the window, you can't see their face. With a production camera, you can dial that in a little better and make it look good. And obviously stability. It can be really hard to keep your cell phone stable, where the bigger cameras are a little easier to hold on to. And then also the footage that you get with a cell phone is not quite as easy to work with if you're taking it into a professional editor. If you're using like Final Cut Pro or Adobe or some of the bigger software, your video quality will not be as easy to tweak from a cell phone. But heck, all considered, a cell phone is a great option if that's all you have. But if you are interested in going a little further, there's some DSLR style cameras like this one right here that are pretty reasonably priced, and they take both photos and video at a good quality. So this is a good starter point if you want to get a camera, and if you're interested in doing a little more higher quality stuff. So I'm going to go through the steps of making a video from start to finish here. So if you guys want to take notes on this, that would be great if this is something that you're interested in. So I'm going to actually just hit all of these steps right here. So going into making a video, you're going to want to consider the pre-production. I'm going to break all of these down too. But pre-production, production, or the actual filming of it, importing your footage to your computer if you're using a footage, or if you're using your phone, you're going to want to import your footage to the editor on your phone. And then post-production, the actual editing process of it, of going through and cutting the footage or the video the way that you want it to look. And then publishing, uploading to YouTube, or if you're giving the video to somebody else, a good way to do that so they can use the video. So let's start with the first step, the pre-production of it. We'll dive right in here. So first off, you want to figure out the feel that you're going for with your project. If you're looking at a video that's sad, you know that you want to portray a sad, or if you want to go with one that's upbeat and happy, you want to know that there's certain ways that you can shoot for that before you even do the filming. And a lot of that has to do with lighting and position of the camera. For example, if you want to portray a feeling of intimidation, then you could shoot a subject from a lower angle, so that way it looks like they're bigger. Or if you want to, film something of a happier, you want to do it more at eye level, so it's like you're relating with them. So that's just figuring out the feel that you want to go to for the project. The next one is to write down your ideas, and this is super important because going into it, it's awesome to write things down first, because you're going to think of a lot more things writing down your ideas than you're ever going to think of just on the spot with a camera. Another thing that I like to do here is I like to watch other videos that might be similar to the topic that I'm doing that are already on YouTube that somebody else has done. Now, you don't want to copy anybody else's ideas verbatim, but it's good to spark ideas for yourself, you know. For example, if you're doing a video on dogs, watch a documentary, you know, do your research. So, I'm just making sure I didn't miss anything here. Okay, so the next one, determine who or what you will need for the project. So are you going to need somebody to hold the camera for you if you're on the film? Are you going to need somebody to act in the video with you? Are you going to need somebody to hold a light? Are you going to need, you know, props? Are you going to need certain clothing to wear in the video? And that all goes along with the clothing aspect of it, goes along with the feel of the project too. So you want to determine, you know, everything from start to finish, what you'll need before you actually get on set filming. Because when you go on set filming, you're going to say, oh man, I forgot this. Now we're going to have to stop and go do this and get this or something, or change my clothes so we can get this scene. So just taking consideration into those things before you have your filming day will definitely save time, along with scouting the location. So if I'm going to film in a place that I've never been, I always want to go check it out first to determine, like, you know, the lighting there, where I'm going to set up my camera, you know, what exactly I'm going to do in the location, if I need to bring my drone, if I want to fly my drone there, you know. And then the last thing here is practice or rehearse your part. And this is super important too, because especially if you're speaking or if you're saying something on the video, it's really easy to choke up once you get in front of the camera. Another thing that I really like to do while I'm rehearsing is practice in front of a mirror, because then you get to see what you look like. And then, you know, you'll get to see certain things maybe that you are doing that you don't want to do on camera before you even set up your camera. You know, one guy that I was working with, he never realized that he was, like, you know, shuffling his feet a lot when he was talking. But when we practiced in front of a mirror, he noticed he was doing that. He's like, oh, okay, I gotta stop doing that. And that made the video, you know, turn out a lot better. All right, so that's basically pre-production, just considering everything, you know, that you'll need before going into the shoot. So next is production, filming, or recording. So you'll obviously want to set a day or days for this, and you'll want to block out more than enough time. You want to get there early, and you'll want to take your time with it, because for a good quality film, you don't want to rush things. I've tried that way too many times, and it just doesn't work. Like the Home Depot video that we filmed, we planned one night to do it. It ended up taking us 3 nights. So it really it turned out well, but it's because we took our time with it. You know, we went into it kind of planning to do it all in one night at Home Depot, but then when we were there filming, we're like, no, we're gonna need more time. So like when I'm setting a film day, I generally like to set a film day and then a backup day. So anything that I want to go back and get, I can go back and get, you know. So especially if I'm talking to a client, you know, we may set up an 8-hour film shoot, which sounds like a super long time, but I mean, you're not filming the whole time. You're still talking through things. You're setting up equipment. You're, you know, moving from place to place, thinking through shots, taking multiple takes. So yeah, that's production. I'm gonna dive in more to production, because there's so much to the actual film shoot that I want to touch on. We talked about stability a little bit, but stabilizing your camera is so important when you're filming video. So like one thing that I really like to do when I'm using this style camera is I like to use 3 points of contact if I'm going handheld. It doesn't matter too much if you're on a tripod, because a tripod's kind of like this. But if you want movement, which movement helps your video so much, you know. So, but keeping your camera stable is important. So what I like to do for 3 points of contact is I like to hold the camera out like this, and that makes the strap tight. So that way, and then I lock my elbows. So that way I have 1, 2, 3 points of contact, and that really helps keep that camera nice and stable. Also, another tip, if you want extra stability there, is to hold your breath for the shot. So then you don't get the breathing movement. So like sometimes, it looks super silly, I know, but like sometimes if I wanna, you know, film this right here, I'm gonna, and then be done. And I got my shot. And it's a good usable 3-second shot, you know, that I can use for a highlight clip or something. So stability is super important. If you wanna use, there's different stabilizers that you can use too. Like, some of them are a little pricey, but if you're really getting into video production, it'll like really help you out. I have a little, it's called a crane, a Zhiyun crane, but it's like, you know, you've seen them. It's a gimbal, it's on a stick, and crazy, it's like science, but it's awesome. Tripods, super important. Like I'm using a tripod on the camera back there. I use tripods all the time for weddings and everything because like camera's stationary, stable. If I'm running 2 or 3 cameras, I always have at least one on a tripod just because you know that's going to be a usable angle if you need to cut to it. So next thing is focus. Focus is super important because nobody wants to watch a blurry video, right? I recheck my focus all the time. If I'm on a film shoot, if I'm filming a wedding, I'll constantly just be like, you know, rechecking my focus. I won't be moving it a lot because that you'll get your image in and out of focus, but just making sure that it's crisp on the screen is super helpful. And then there's also a tool on a lot of cameras that is focus magnification. So if you guys have a camera at home that you're using, it depends on the specific model, but typically a lot of like these style cameras will have this little button that you can punch in and it'll get really close so you can make sure that your image is nice and crisp. So focus, super important. Next one is creativity. So if you're filming even with your, you know, smartphone, with your filming with your phone or with this, whatever you're filming with, you want to have lots of creativity. So like get lots of angles of things. If I want to film, you know, this table, I'm not just gonna, okay, done, you know? I'm gonna get low angles, I'm gonna get high angles, I'm gonna get here, there, you know? Because you wanna really change it up to make it, get creative with it, change it up and make it interesting for your viewer. Camera movement, which we just talked about stability, but camera movement is super important. Now you don't want an unstable camera movement, but a stable camera movement. And that makes your shots a lot more interesting. And then lastly, in creativity, depth of field, which is like throwing the background out of focus and your subject in focus, or like rack focusing. That's really cool to see in videos. You know, you'll see like, if I'm filming a wedding, I'll have like a flower right here, and then like you'll see the little archway where they're getting married up there, and you can just like rack focus back and forth and get a nice cool shot. Or like, you know, down the table at their reception hall with all their glasses lined up, you can just rack focus all the way down and the focus changes, and it really draws your attention to different parts of the screen, and it's super helpful to like, you know, get creative and show off, you know, different aspects of what's in the scene through depth of field. So, next part, when you're filming on set, you'll want to make sure to establish your shots. This makes a really easy edit for you when you go and to cut up the footage. And what I mean by this is avoid random, unstable footage. So I don't want to, for example, record. Okay, stop. This is what I want to do. Record, stop. Now I have a good usable clip and I don't have to fish through 10 seconds of footage. It saves time in my edit. So with that, I want to establish that shot before I even hit the record button. And then if you need to, take multiple takes of whatever it is. You know, we talked about that with angles, but just to make sure that you're getting the shots that you need and to make your video, you know, interesting. All right. Kind of touched on lighting a little bit, but I'm going to go on depth here. But as I stated before, that cameras work really based off of light. Like it's basically light entering through your lens and hitting either a mirror or a sensor back here. And so the more light, the better. It's like you've probably seen videos outside look a lot better than videos in a dark room. You get that grain and pixelation and stuff, especially with a smartphone. But like scouting the area to see where the lights are in the room. So like in this room, I see there's lots of windows over here. So like really the best way to film would be to like on an angle like here, like filming this way, or like where my camera is. So I'm utilizing all of that natural light coming in, and it's lighting up the area that I'm filming. If I'm, like I talked about, if I'm filming against the window, it's gonna look dark and it's gonna be a lot harder to expose the camera for that. I have this light right here that I got from Amazon, and this is just a $30 light, but it's, you know, it's bright. Yeah, didn't mean to blind you. But something like this, you know, will make a world of a difference. And I wanted to show you guys an example of lighting with Sling Studio, but I don't have my Sling Studio. But if you get a chance to research like the difference of using lighting versus not using lighting, it's huge with cameras. The way that a camera will perceive the, you know, the background or whatever it is you're filming. So set up lights if necessary. All right, we're getting into nerd talk here. So I apologize. A lot of this you won't have to worry about on smartphones because they do it automatically, which is great. But this is something that if you're using a bigger camera or a production camera, you definitely need to do some research on and understand. And I'm gonna brush on it here, but I don't wanna bore you to death. So I'll just give you the quick rundown. White balance and exposure. White balance is basically you're telling your camera what white is, and that helps for truer colors for your camera to understand. So usually when I set a white balance on a camera, I'll set my camera on a tripod and I'll go out and I'll have somebody hold up a white sheet of paper or something, and then I'll click the white balance button, it'll take a little screenshot and it'll say, okay, yep, that's white. And that calibrates the camera depending on your lighting, so you can make sure that your colors are accurate. And then that way you won't have to spend a lot of time in the editing process trying to tweak all the colors around. Next is exposure. Exposure tells the camera how bright or dark the area is in the image. And exposure has to do with 3 parts, and that's aperture, or f-stop, but it's the same thing. Shutter speed, and ISO, or digital gain. And so aperture, the first one, is the amount of light that's coming into the lens. So a lot of cameras will even have a ring here for aperture. If it's wide open, then it's like your eyeball being like wide open. You can get more light into your eyeball. If you're in a dark room, your eyes will open wide up. If you're in a bright, like outside, then your eyes, you know, are little. It's the same thing with a camera. That's aperture. Also with aperture, you get your depth of field. So if your eyeballs are way open on your camera, then you can blur out the background easier. Where if it's all the way closed, then you get more of the image in focus, but you have less light in your image. So the image quality might go down a little bit. So shutter speed is how fast the camera is taking the pictures. So this applies to both still photo, and for video. So like, I know you guys have probably seen the sports photos where, you know, there's a lot of action and somebody's kicking a goal into a soccer net and you get a nice crisp image. That's a high shutter speed. So the number's real high there and it's taking a real quick photo. So when that photo is taking so quick, it allows less light into the camera because it doesn't have a whole lot of time to process the image. It's just snapping it real quick. Where a slower shutter speed takes the picture over a longer duration of time. So it allows more light into the camera, but you're prone to blurry images. And that's the same thing with video. So video is essentially taking multiple photos and strung together. So with a higher shutter speed, you can get action sports on video a lot better. But you have to adjust your camera to allow for a brighter image, which might suffer. On the contrary, if it doesn't matter if you have some motion blur, then you want a lower shutter speed. And then lastly is ISO, it's digital gain. And all ISO is really is just you're digitally telling the camera to brighten or darken the image. And that's an awesome tool, but if your ISO gets too high, your image starts falling apart. It starts looking grainy or pixelated. So exposure, I know I threw a lot at you right there, and I'm sorry about that. But exposure is basically trying to balance those 3, aperture, shutter speed, and ISO, to get a good image quality. And that is probably the most difficult thing to understand about video or photography, but once you get it, it's like it's, free roaming from there. So, all right, past the nerd talk there, hopefully. This is all nerd talk, right? All right, so importing and organizing footage. So now you've shot your video. You want to put it into your computer or in your editing software on your phone. If you're using your computer, my method is to organize on folders on the computer. So typically I organize by date. That's the easiest for me. So like everything that I've done in 2016 is in a 2016 folder, 2017, 2018, 2019, And then within those folders, I have the project names. So like different projects that I worked on through that year. So I might have all my weddings in a folder, and then all my corporate jobs in a folder, and all my church stuff in another folder. And then in those folders, I have the smaller projects. But it just helps keep it nice and organized, because when you're shooting a lot of video, things can get cluttered up fast, and it takes up a lot of space on your desktop. So you want to know what you still need and what you don't need, and if you need to save that on a hard drive or if you need to get rid of it. So that's kind of my process for organizing. And don't underestimate this, because this takes some time to organize your footage, especially if you're working with a lot of it. But organizing it is super important to help for a fast edit. So now we're going to jump into the editing. First, I'm going to talk about different editing software. So if you are interested in doing some editing, these are the programs that I recommend. Free programs are iMovie, and that's available on your iPhone, or you can use it on Mac or iPad. It's not compatible with any Android products or any Windows products. DaVinci Resolve is a really, really solid editing platform for a Mac or a PC, and that's free. It's downloadable. Windows Movie Maker comes pre-installed on most PCs. And if you're strictly editing on your Android, Cyberlink Power Director is like the best free program to use. Now, professional programs, the most common is Adobe Premiere Pro. That's usually what a lot of the professional industry uses. It's a subscription based though, so it's $25 a month for just Premiere Pro. Or you can also get like the Adobe Suite, which has a lot of other things like Photoshop if you're editing photos and stuff. And they discount their bundle rates. I use Final Cut Pro X. That's my favorite. That's the one that I like to use. It's for Mac only though, so you can only use this if you are an Apple guy, which I am. That's what's up. But Final Cut Pro, in my opinion, it's the easiest professional editing software to use, and it's just so it's so quick. You can do so much with it. So that's the one I use. And then lastly, Sony Vegas. I have a few friends that use this one, but it's just $50, but it's for a PC only. But it's a pretty powerful editing platform if you're looking for a little thing, something that's a little better than the free software like Windows Movie Maker. All right, so when you're editing, you'll want to find good music for your video. But don't use copyrighted music. This is a trap that a lot of people fall into. And like if you try to use a copyrighted song and throw it on Facebook or something, it's gonna get flagged and pulled right away. And when I first started, I had to deal with this too. And it's super frustrating because you just spent all this time on a video and you can't even show it to anybody because you used copyrighted music. So I just say avoid using copyrighted music. Any mainstream music or even like Christian music, just avoid using it. Get your music from the YouTube audio library. It's free. They have a library that's designated for content creatives that you can just go there. You can download really high quality music that's royalty free, and then which means it's not going to get flagged anywhere or taken down. Also, Incompetech.com or bensound.com are also good free sites. If you want to pay for music, if you're doing a corporate video for somebody else and you want something that's not used very often, because the YouTube library, you'll hear it all over the place because a lot of people use the songs there. But if you want something kind of unique that not a lot of people use, I use premiumbeat.com, which it's like, I think right now it's like $60 to get a song. But if you're doing a video for somebody else, you can just include that into their price so they're covering that. So now that you have your music, you're going to want to cut the video to the beat, or feel the music with the video, because that will definitely emphasize your visuals if your video is cut well with the music. And then you'll want to determine whether or not your video will need a voiceover. So if you're doing a narration like in the video that I showed before, really all it takes is a microphone, or you can even use the voice recorder on your phone and then import that into your editor too. So text on the video helps. Helps give that professional feel to it. When you see a good video and you see somebody's name and title come across the bottom, that adds. And it really doesn't take a whole lot of extra effort to add text on the video, but it really shows so much more quality and professionalism to your video. So I definitely recommend text when necessary, or when possible, rather. All right, so in editing, I wanted to cover working with cell phone footage. So when you shoot a video on a cell phone, you always, always, always want to shoot like this, not like this. I'm sure it frustrates even you guys when you watch videos that are like this and you can't get the whole scene, right? Right, so I always say, film like this if you're using your cell phone. So important. The video quality is just so much better than this. But if all you have to work with is this, if somebody gives you this and they say, hey, you need to edit this. So what I do with this is, I know you guys have seen this online too, but you duplicate the file, so you stack the cell phone footage on top of the cell phone footage, and then the one that's underneath, you just stretch it, make it big, and then blur it out. So then you get the blurry sides, and then the clean video in the middle. What's that?
I can't stand the blurry sides.
I know. It's better than black though, on the sides. So.
It's just salty because it's blurry sides.
Yeah, I know. I can't stand it either. That's why you film like that. Film like that. All right. Last thing before we head on to questions is publishing and content delivery. So if you're using a smartphone or a desktop, you're going to want to export the video in the appropriate format for your platform. So like Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, whatever you're using, they all have a designated format that they prefer, and so you're going to get the highest quality. MP4 is the most common. But as far as resolution or anything, I would just check this, you just go to your platform like YouTube and you see what the preferred method is. Just type that in and then it'll tell you. And then you can go to any of your editors and export the video into that format so it looks the best possible to whatever platform that you're uploading it to. And that's really, if you're doing a video for yourself or whatever, you're probably going to want to post it on YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook, sites like that. But if you're making a video for somebody else and you want to get the video to them without posting it online publicly, these are a couple sites that I use that I love. Dropbox, first and foremost, dropbox.com. It starts at I think you get 2 gigs free, and then after that, you can start adding additional storage, or if you invite friends to join Dropbox, then you can get more storage. It's that type of thing, but I really like Dropbox. Google Drive, a lot of you guys probably have used Google Drive before to send documents and stuff like that. That works really well for video or photos too. And WeTransfer is kind of like a little hidden gem. It's a free service and it limits you to 2 gigabytes, but that's perfect to send a video typically. If you're doing a 3 to 5 minute video, you can just upload to WeTransfer and send it directly to somebody. Now there is an expiration time on WeTransfer. So typically it'll give you I think it's 3 days. So you send somebody the download link and then they have to download that video within 3 days. Which is a bummer, but it's free. It's an awesome program. So one of those 3 is what I'd recommend if you're trying to give a video to somebody else. I use Dropbox most of the time. I love Dropbox. So, all right. Now, I guess that's it. I would take some questions from you guys if anybody has any questions. Yeah. What's that? Do I have a what? YouTube channel. Yes, I do. Thanks. So I have a personal YouTube channel, which I put a lot of stuff like the Home Depot video and the Owasso video and stuff like that. There's some old stuff that I did when I was a kid on there too, which you can just find by typing my name, Jordan Sovis, S-O-V-I-S. I also have a professional account, which is the Sovis Productions YouTube channel. And that's where I upload more of my professional content for clients, wedding videos, that type of thing. So good question. Thank you.
How much do you charge for a normal job like a wedding?
So it depends on the package that they're going with. So typically, and this varies depending on your level of experience too, but my base package is $1,000. And that's just basic coverage of the wedding day, so they can watch their ceremony and stuff like that. But there's more time involved if you're doing like a highlight, something flashy that's making, if you're there filming for longer, there's different aspects. So my packages start at $1,000 and they go all the way up to $4,000. So just depending. And typically in the past, I've done about 20 weddings a year, but that was way too much. I decided to cut it back. I'm doing 7 this summer, so. And that seems like a good number, but we'll see. I love weddings, don't get me wrong. It's just weddings take a lot of time and it's stressful the day of. Like it wears you out because you have to be on it to capture those moments for the couple. So there is a certain amount of stress to weddings. So yeah, 7. Go ahead.
How many subscribers do you have? 22?
Not sure, 3,000, I think, something.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah. 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 So the paid question. So it's crazy because on YouTube, a lot of people think that it's like pretty easy to make money, but you have to be pretty big to start making money. Yeah. Yeah, you have to upload a lot. Like the people that are really making money off of YouTube are uploading videos like every other day. And then they're also getting a couple thousand hits at least from every video. And the views on YouTube are actually, you're not paid by view. You're actually paid by the amount of people that see the ads that pop up, or the amount of people that watch the whole ads, or the amount of people that click the ads. Because really, it's all about generating ad revenue for YouTube videos.
Yeah,
so
ads had a lot to do with it because
yeah,
people are supplying them the money for the most part.
yeah, yep. That's exactly it, man. So really, you can have 1 million views and not get paid very much if nobody's watching the ads or clicking on them. But I mean, chances are people are going to click on them if there's that many hits. But yeah, it's not by the amount of views, but more the amount of people that are exposed to the advertising.
We're talking about rack focusing. How do you do that?
Rack focusing, good question. So what I like to do for rack focusing is I like to use a tripod always. Because if you're trying to hand hold it, it's harder to do. But if you're using some kind of stabilizer like a tripod, I usually like to look, like I'll align at my shot and then I'll like look down at what I want to rack focus to. And then I'll just kind of play with it first and see where I need to turn my hand on the focus. Like you always want to do it manual focus too. I mean, it just doesn't turn out well if you're doing automatic focus. But I look, where I need to start and where I need to end. And I usually practice 1 or 2 times and then I'll hit the record button and actually do it. So, yeah.